What a season it's been for Southampton. From a terrible start to a 25-game unbeaten streak, from bottling promotion to a dramatic playoff final, this season had it all. So I thought it was a good idea to take a look back through Southampton's whole season, starting from the very beginning. At the end of the 2022-23 season, Southampton were relegated from the Premier League to the Championship. This impacted the club financially, but also meant that a lot of players would now want to leave. Our captain and star player Ward-Prowse went to West Ham, Belgian youngster Romeo Lavia was the next Chelsea flop, Salisu went to Monaco, Livramento went to Newcastle, and Nathan Tella went to win the Bundesliga with Bayer Leverkusen. The Saints responded by loaning in Flynn Downs from West Ham, Taylor Harwood-Bellis from Man City, and Ryan Fraser from Newcastle. We also needed a new manager, so we brought in Russell Martin from Swansea. And while all this was going on, the Championship season was just getting started. The Saints won 2 of the first 3 games. They drew with Norwich, but then beat Sheffield Wednesday and Plymouth. These 2 teams had only just been promoted, so winning here was expected. But something that wasn't expected happened in the Carabao Cup. A 3-1 loss to Gillingham. This was an embarrassing defeat, and everybody knew that we had to play a lot better than that if we wanted to go back to the Premier League. But unfortunately, we weren't playing well in the Championship at all. After a narrow win against a struggling QPR, Southampton lost 5-0 away at Sunderland. There was now a little bit of pressure on Russell Martin. The team had conceded 12 goals in the first 5 games, and they were yet to keep a clean sheet. And 13 days later, we lost 4-1 to Leicester in a game where they were clearly the better team. We definitely weren't playing like a side that was going to get promoted, and it was a real problem. We'd already lost to one of our promotion rivals, and things continued to go from bad to worse. We lost 1-0 to newly promoted Ipswich at home. Now, this might not seem too bad considering Ipswich were promoted this season, but at the time they'd only just come up and no one was expecting much of them. We then followed this up with a 2-1 defeat to Middlesbrough, and let's just say we weren't playing like a team that's going to get promoted. We'd lost the last 4 games with an aggregate score of 12-2, but mercifully our losing run came to an end with a superb victory over Leeds United. For the first time this season, Southampton had really performed well, and this match would be the start of a record-breaking unbeaten streak. The next game was a 1-0 win over Stoke, and that was followed by a 1-1 draw with Rotherham, a 2-1 win over Hull City, and a 2-2 draw with Preston. Now, none of these results were mind-blowing, but the team was still playing far better than they were at the start of the season. Some of these performances were really positive signs. The Saints then continued their good run with a 3-1 home win over Birmingham City. Players like Downs and Harwood-Bellis were really starting to show their quality, and Southampton continued to climb the table. We then beat Millwall away and won a tough match at home against West Brom. These wins extended Southampton's unbeaten streak to 8 games, and many fans were now convinced by Martin's style of play. The Saints had become one of the best teams in the Championship when it came to keeping possession and playing accurate passes. Against Millwall, for example, we kept 73% possession and completed 674 passes compared to Millwall's 234. Our passing accuracy was also higher than theirs by 15%. These were some very impressive stats. Our next game was against Huddersfield away, and despite keeping 78% of possession and completing 872 passes compared to Huddersfield's 236, we ended up drawing 1-1. A similar thing had happened earlier in the season against Rotherham, and Saints fans found these games extremely frustrating to watch. Dominating matches but not quite getting the results would become a common theme throughout our season. But after this match, the Saints continued to win games against Bristol City and Cardiff. Those were 2 convincing wins and 2 more games unbeaten. Things were going really well for the Saints. We then picked up a couple more draws against Watford and Coventry City. In both games, the Saints achieved more than 60% possession but were still unable to win. Now, they were still dropping points here and there, but the Saints had 13 games unbeaten at this point, and they then made that 14 with a win over Blackburn Rovers, 4-0 at home. Southampton absolutely dominated this match, and Blackburn didn't really stand a chance. It's safe to say that at this point, the team was playing like one that could get promoted, and we were charging towards the top of the table. The Saints then continued their fantastic form into the next couple of games. They beat QPR 1-0 a couple days before Christmas, and then beat Swansea 5-0 on Boxing Day. Southampton had been performing very well in these last few weeks, and if they carried on like this, they would definitely be able to challenge Leeds and Ipswich for that second place spot. Southampton then beat Plymouth 2-1 to continue their winning run before drawing 1-1 with Norwich on New Year's Day. This was another frustrating match. We had 3 times as many shots as Norwich, and we had 75% possession. Unfortunately, only 4 of our 21 shots were actually on target. So in the end, we drew 1-1. In the next game though, the Saints were able to beat Sheffield Wednesday 4-0. And it was a really good performance from Southampton, who scored 4 very good goals. This match also extended our unbeaten run to 20 games. And my footage from this game was the first thing that I ever uploaded to YouTube. Anyway, next up was a 3-1 win over Swansea. This was a really good result because our form away from home hadn't been that great so far this season. A convincing away win like this one was a really positive sign, and we were now 21 games unbeaten. Our next match was another solid away win, 2-0 against bottom of the league Rotherham. The more games the Saints won, the closer they got to automatic promotion. It was now very tight between Ipswich, Leeds and Southampton, and Leicester were also starting to drop points. Our next league game was a 5-3 victory over Huddersfield. That was a thrilling match in which we went 2-0 behind but somehow managed to pull it back and win 5-3. There were some incredible goals in that game as well. After this win, the Saints were now 25 games unbeaten, but all good things have to come to an end. In the next game, we lost 3-0 away from home in a midweek match against Bristol City. Our unbeaten streak had lasted 25 games and that was a club record. We were closing in on promotion too. You see, Leicester were in first and Ipswich, Leeds and Southampton were kind of just behind them. It was all very close at the top, but Southampton was still in fourth. But then Leicester, Ipswich and Leeds decided to totally bottle it and Southampton had a chance to go in front of them. But it turns out the Saints were total bottle jobs as well because they ended up losing 2 of the next 3 games. After an impressive 2-0 win over West Brom, we lost 2-1 at home to Hull City and 2-1 at home to Millwall. Many people were critical of Martin's tactics. We kept passing it around our own box and inevitably that led to some chances conceded. We were very sloppy during this game and gave away possession far too easily. This might be because there wasn't enough time for players to recover between fixtures. Whatever the reason for them, these defeats had a real impact on our chances of automatic promotion. Meanwhile, in the FA Cup, Southampton had beaten Walsall 4-0 before drawing 1-1 with Watford and beating them 3-0 in the replay at St Mary's. This had got them through to the FA Cup 5th round where they would face the team that was top of the Premier League, Liverpool. The winning team would get a free pass to the semi-finals via Old Trafford, and in the end, that winning team was Liverpool. We did play well for some parts of the game and we had some chances that we should have scored, but Liverpool were the better team. We continued to concede possession in areas that we shouldn't have and we ended up losing 3-0. And Liverpool ended up losing 4-3 at Old Trafford in the next round. Anyway, the next game for the Saints was a thrilling 4-3 win over Birmingham City. Birmingham were struggling at the time and Southampton relied on a 96th minute winner from Joe Aribo. But a win's a win, and considering we'd lost 4 of the last 5 games, this was a really good result for Southampton. We then beat Sunderland 4-2. It was another win, but also another couple of goals conceded. In the last 6 games, we'd conceded 15 goals and scored only 30. We did still manage to win 3 of those 6 matches, so it didn't have too big of an impact on the table, but we were struggling to find that defensive solidity that we'd had during our unbeaten run. Anyway, the next game was against Middlesbrough. We still had a chance of automatic promotion, so it was very important that we didn't drop points against teams like Middlesbrough, especially since we still had to play Leeds, Ipswich and Leicester away from home. However, Middlesbrough played very well and earned themselves a 1-1 draw with a 90th minute goal. This was not a good result for Southampton. If we couldn't beat Middlesbrough, then how would we be able to beat Leeds, Leicester and Ipswich? Our next game was against Ipswich and it was a very exciting match. I would say we were the better team in that game, but after a very harsh red card and a 97th minute goal, Ipswich ended up winning 3-2. This was a very disappointing result and it meant that automatic promotion would be very difficult to get. We would probably need to beat both Leicester and Leeds to have a chance. The next game was against Blackburn Rovers and we ended up drawing 0-0. At this point, many fans had given up on the chance of automatic promotion. We were almost guaranteed a spot in the playoffs though, so there was still a chance that we could get promoted. It was very important now to win a few games so we could go into the playoffs on good form. And we managed to beat Coventry City 2-1 at home with a great performance. We then faced Watford for the 4th time this season and managed to beat them 3-2 with a 99th minute goal. We'd now won 2 games in a row and we were about to make that 3 with a victory over Preston. With this 3-0 home victory, it seemed like Southampton were back in the race for automatic promotion. You see, Leicester, Leeds and Ipswich had been bottling it even more and Southampton were actually doing well now. But this didn't last very long as we then went and lost to Cardiff. We dominated this game with 63% possession, but we only had 8 shots on target compared to Cardiff's 7, and they ended up scoring a 96th minute winner. We then lost 5-0 away at Leicester City. Yep, that's right, 5-0. We played terribly in that game and we were going to have to do a lot better if we wanted to win the playoffs. Against Leicester, the Saints had 67% possession, but somehow we registered no shots on target. We really struggled to create chances and that wasn't a good sign for the upcoming playoffs. It wasn't the first time we'd been beaten unbeaten by 5 this season, and it really wasn't a good result. This game was followed by a 1-0 home defeat to Stoke. At this point, we were pretty much guaranteed to go through the playoffs, so the results didn't matter too much, but this still wasn't a good sign. The next match was the final game of the season, and the Saints were able to beat Leeds United 2-1. It was very likely that we would face Leeds in the playoffs, so beating them away was a really good result. It had been a very good season for Southampton, considering how badly we started. The 25-game unbeaten run was something quite special, but now we needed to turn our attention to the playoffs. The playoffs offered the chance to get promoted to the Premier League, which was important for financial reasons, but also to keep our important players. In order to reach the playoff final, we would have to beat West Brom over 2 legs. The first leg was away at the Hawthorns, and it was a nervous 0-0 draw. Now all we had to do was beat West Brom at St Mary's, and we'd be on our way to Wembley. Before the second leg had even started, the Saints fans were making noise. There was red smoke everywhere, and it was an incredible atmosphere. Everybody knew that a win here would take us to Wembley. The Saints absolutely dominated this match, and in the 49th minute, Will Smallbone put them in front. Southampton continued to play well, and in the 78th minute, they went 2-0 up. And just 8 minutes later, Armstrong scored his second of the match from the penalty spot to make it 3-0. West Brom did score a consolation goal in the 97th minute, but that didn't matter at all. Southampton had beaten West Brom 3-1 to book their place in the playoff final. This playoff final was one of the most important games in the club's history. We were up against Leeds United, who finished 3rd in the Championship this season. A win here would be worth around £125 million. Promotion to the Premier League would also allow the Saints to keep loads of crucial players like Walker-Peters, Harwood-Bellis, Downs and Che Adams. We would also be able to bring in better players during the summer transfer window if we were a Premier League club. If we didn't get promoted though, we would lose many key players, and this would make going up to the Premier League a far more difficult task. The result of this match would have a huge impact on both clubs. The 35,000 Saints fans that had come to Wembley were about to see the most important game in the English Football League season. At the start of the match, Leeds seemed like the better team, but as the game went on, Southampton got a lot better. We began to have more chances and more possession in the final third. But then, in the 24th minute, Armstrong scored to put the Saints 1-0 up. That goal was absolutely amazing, but Leeds weren't done yet. During the second half, Leeds began to take control of the game once again. However, they struggled to create chances, and Alex McCarthy wasn't really tested that much. And with Leeds pushing for an equaliser, the Saints were able to create chances of their own using quick counter-attacks. For the last few minutes of the match though, we switched into defensive mode, and we were able to hold out to win the Championship playoff final. Southampton were promoted to the Premier League. After such a crazy season, this was the perfect ending. Of course, we're not going to win as much now that we're in the Premier League, but if we can stay up, that would be huge for the club. We've got a big, long Premier League season ahead, so let's look forward to that. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you want to watch more videos, you can click the ones on screen right now. And with that all being said, I will see you later. Oh, and because you made it to the end of the video, you get to see my Southampton season awards. The signing of the season was Flynn Downs, top scorer Adam Armstrong, the best defender award goes to Taylor Harwood-Bellis, the clubman award goes to Jack Stevens, our captain, he's been here since 2011, and the player of the season award goes to Kyle Walker-Peters. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you later.